Now let's go over to the States to Shemeka Michelle, who joins us. Shemeka, always great to chat to you. You're right there at the moment in the heart of it all. Did you enjoy the spectacle, the great television from the great television maestro himself, Donald Trump? You thought The Apprentice was good. Here's the Oval Office brought to us all. What's the feeling in America? Are, as Rita was saying beforehand, Americans relieved that Donald Trump has stood up to Zelensky and said, we're not going to be spending any more money on you, you've got to make a peace deal? What's the attitude in America, Shemeka?
Yeah, obviously the left is having a fit, right? They're crazy. They are going to go against everything simply because they don't care about the American people. If it was up to them, we would just keep sending billions and billions of dollars over to Ukraine while Americans actually suffer and can barely pay for eggs. But for the rest of us, those of us who have common sense and any type of sanity, we are so grateful for President Trump. What we saw, this display in the White House yesterday, is exactly what we voted for him for. We want someone who is tough, someone who is going to put America first, and someone who's just not afraid to be hated. Trump is not afraid for people to criticize him, and we appreciate that. And for those of us that campaigned over the last 4 years after what happened in 2024, we are really just basking in glory right now. We are so happy.
Well, this is what a lot of people don't understand, Shemeka, particularly here in Australia, that this wouldn't have come as an enormous surprise to Americans. This was something that Donald Trump has talked about, he's campaigned about. They don't want to see billions going from America to Ukraine, no matter how good that cause may be. It is something that the American public have changed their mind on, because back in 2022, there was support for the amount of funding that was going to Ukraine. But even by last year, it was clear it was only a minority position. So tell me about that change where people were quite happy for America to fund Ukraine's defence, but now they have said no more.
You know, I think for those who actually initially supported it, they didn't really expect it to be the amount that it has been. Not only that, you have to remember we've had an influx of illegal immigrants that have come across, that have just really put a burden on things. And people are angry. People in the inner cities have said, hey, you're bringing all of these illegal immigrants in. They get checks and they get all of this cash. We're sending all of this money to Ukraine. And I really think all of those things compiled is why Trump won, and it's why the Democrats lost. And I do think some of the Democrats are saying, hey, wait a minute, what's going on? Or just some of the more sensible Republicans. But there are people like myself whose pockets have always been touching a little bit, that have been a little thin, that never wanted this money to go anywhere but to those here in America in need. Like, I understand that we have to do some type of foreign aid and we have to help people in need at times, but it's just been a lot. Biden was a terrible president, and he really cared more about putting himself in a better stance, I think, with his own personal pockets than actually doing what we needed him to do in America for Americans. And so I think it's just a compiled amount of things that people are saying, no more. We're tired, and something has to change here. You know, when eggs are $13 a dozen, I think people are just saying something has to change. If we have this amount of money, let's funnel it into those who are most in need.
James.
Shemeka, give us an insight into the thinking of Donald Trump. I mean, he referred to Zelensky as a dictator, then he kind of walked that back. Trump had made a big deal about the fact he was going to bring peace. He's since tweeted after this meeting that Zelensky's not ready for peace. He should come back when he's ready. Where does this go from here? What's Trump's thinking on the future of this negotiation?
You know, I really think Trump just didn't like the disrespect. if we watch from the beginning of the meeting, Zelensky was already disrespectful. The way he came in, dressed, his body language. There were times when Trump said something and Zelensky, he rolled his eyes up in his head, or he would mess with his nose, or it's like he was completely uncomfortable with the things that was being said. So I can only imagine, if I'm watching this and what I'm seeing, what the energy was like in the room. So I think if he actually comes back with a different approach, then perhaps Trump is going to still, go after the help, because I do think Trump wants the war to stop. I do think that he's concerned about the people and he wants to make a peace deal. But Trump is just not the type of man that's going to let someone disrespect them. And I think Zelensky came in with the ultimate Napoleon complex, just being very disrespectful from the start. And I think that Trump is not having it. Thank God we have a very outspoken vice president. J.D. Vance is not having it. And I think that Zelensky needs to go back, think about his actions, and come forward with the appreciation that they said he should have, because he should. And I think he just hasn't had to have that before. He was able to come and say whatever he wanted to during the Biden administration, and now those things have changed. So, but I do think that Trump really wants the war to stop, and he's ready to help with a peace deal. But Zelensky has to get over himself, and he needs to do it quickly.
Rita.
It seems like Zelensky is not fully appreciating that the people he needs most are no longer in power. So he's got all the Europeans and countries around the world who are full of praise, but they're not going to send troops. They're not going to send money. They're not going to arm Ukraine. So they're not going to help his war effort. And obviously the Democrats were very receptive to his message, but now there's a change in administration. It seems, Shemeka, he went in there not appreciating. I think Trump made the comment about you're not holding too many cards, winning cards. He's not holding cards. Ukraine needs America. America doesn't need Ukraine. And sadly, that's just the reality of the situation.
That's the reality. And hopefully Zelensky actually comes, we would call it a come to Jesus meeting. Hopefully he has a come to Jesus meeting and he understands that there is a new sheriff in town. And after what Trump has been through over the last 8 years, I think this administration or this term is going to be a lot different than what we saw when he was in office in 2016. I really think that a lot of the promises that he has made, he's going to do everything in his power to keep them for the American people. And so I just think, Zelensky didn't know what he was walking into. I do think he has a chance to turn it around, but I'm just grateful that we have a president that will not be walked over. He will be respected. And for those of us who voted for him, we will have his back every step of the way.